Despite these successes, she urged sustained collaboration to break the silence, support survivors, and challenge harmful practices. Away from Ogun State now, the Center for Democracy and Development says civil society organizations must increase awareness against vote buying in local languages. This follows massive allegations of vote buying and poor voter turnout that marred the recent Ondo State governorship election. Information disorder analyst at CDD Ahmed Aluko in a chat with Adamimogo FM cited the example of an elderly woman who publicly admitted to receiving money to vote and said such testimony was proof that CSOs must consider non-English language speakers in advocacy campaigns.
CSOs, they've tried, they've had their own bit of the work, they have put in effort and all. But it's more of this localized awareness. I think that the way that the states, for example, in a state like Ondo State, most of the press briefings, most of the statements, most of the programs, they were conducted in English language. And you can imagine such kind of a state where there are more Yoruba and other local language speakers. So it's more or less like a gap. Yes, the CSOs, they've tried CDD championing those areas and among other CSOs, but the gap still remains that the localized language are not prioritized.
On the forthcoming local government elections in Lagos, Aluko urged residents of the state to support recent council administration reforms by going out en masse to vote.
So the people have to know that the local government are more closer to them than the state and central government. So it's important that while we are focusing on who becomes the president, who becomes the governor, who becomes the senator, it's even more important to know who becomes the local government chairman and councillors because they are more close to us. And now that they are in charge of their funds and administration, we need to ensure that the best of us hold and mount these positions so that they can deliver the best results. So unlike before where our focus is on governorship and presidential election, we should put more focus and more effort in the council election.
He, however, ruled out the possibility of ceding the roles of state independent electoral commissions to the national body. And now, a former spokesman for the socio-political organization Afenifere Mogaji Gboyega Adejimo says the Yoruba people of the Southwest would not be happy if President Bola Tinubu's presidency fails to deliver constitutional changes that would restructure the country. Adejimo, who is also a member of the Constitution Drafting Committee of the Patriots, led by Chief Emeka Yoku, said this in an exclusive chit-chat with Adamimogo 93.1 FM Lagos. He noted that prominent citizens in the country had been actively working to overhaul the Constitution, but we are now losing note that the president was once a proponent of restructuring may not fully back it.
But I am the chairman of the Southwest Committee on drawing up a new constitution for Nigeria on the platform of Patriots. 6 of us were chosen from all over the federation as chairmen and then members from every state. So 36 of us so that we can draw up a new constitution. And we are working hard so that we can help this country. But is he going to allow us? We've been working so hard. We have agenda. We are doing everything. I'm still going to go around everywhere in the Southwest with my team. I've already met with the ONI. There are stakeholders that we are meeting. My committee was only set up 2 weeks ago, and if you know what we have done already, but after doing all that, it will now behove on your president, who the university Zomeni, to now allow restructuring to happen.
Adejimo argued that restructuring remains vital, as without it, the regions would never achieve full potential. Meanwhile, in Lagos today, it was a miraculous escape for an unnamed driver when a 40-foot container toppled onto a sports car at Mile 2, leaving the driver unscarred. Witnesses reported that the container-laden tanker lost control and crushed the car, prompting Good Samaritans to rush to the scene to rescue the driver of the sports car, who was in shock but unharmed. A statement by the spokesman of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, Adebayo Taufik, confirmed that the driver received medical attention and that the vehicle was safely removed. Also reacting to the incident, LASMA General Manager Olalekan Karaoke stressed the need for tankers to properly secure containers to prevent similar incidents. And now the Lagos State Task Force has impounded 128 commercial motorcycles known as Okadas for operating illegally in restricted areas of Sabo, Ikorodu, Berga, and Ikotun. The task force chairman, CSP Adetayo Akirele, reaffirmed the task force commitment to ensuring compliance, warning that both riders and passengers caught violating the ban would face legal consequences. He said the 128 impounded motorcycles will be forfeited to the state government following court proceedings. And that's the size of updates that we have for you from Lagos and Ogun states. Now turn to Ibadan, where Fortune Omoshola is on standby to tell us more about the government reading the Riot Act to tax defaulters there.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Good afternoon, wherever you're listening from. Thanks for joining us on this end of the broadcast. Southwest today. This is the studios of Adamimogo. Thank you very much, Samuel. Good afternoon, wherever you're listening from. Thanks for joining us on this end of the broadcast. Southwest today. This is the studio. Let's start with this one bordering on climate change. According to the United Nations, climate change is seen as a long-term change in the average weather patterns that have come to define Earth's local, regional, and global climates. Today, climate change in Nigeria is an entirely different idea. While some understand it partially, some can't come to terms with what it means. Why is climate change such a complex subject, and why is it integral to our realities as humans today? Our reporter, Olaoluwa Tideoyedipe, brings us this report.
Thinking about climate change is like speaking French to a non-speaker. Save the academics, elites, or those genuinely concerned. Climate change is far-flung from the popular topics in many Nigerian homes. Many damage this discussion as government's business and a future crisis that has no bearing on the reality of today. But then, it does. Dr. Oluwoshile calls this global problem as a distant threat that has been overshadowed by immediate concerns like economic struggles, job security, to mention a few.
In a country like Nigeria, really, where daily struggles often revolve around putting food on the table, or maybe securing a job, or maybe finding affordable fuel, I will tell you for a fact that climate change can feel like an abstract issue, can be very distant and intangible. That's true. For many, the concept of melting ice caps, rising global temperature, if you look at it, it doesn't really directly resonate with a lot of people, not when the immediate concerns about their surviving the day-to-day challenges is right staring in their faces.
Unfortunately, the lack of awareness and understanding of climate change among those directly affected is very alarming. For example, farmers in a rural community could attribute drastic changes in their yields, weather pattern, or soil fertility to superstitious explanations or traditional beliefs rather than seeing climate change as the root cause. First, what is climate change and how can an average Nigerian understand it? A sustainability expert, Dr. Somi, shares some insights.
The reality of climate change is no longer just a distant prediction. It's happening right here in our faces. Right now, it's impacting life in ways both big and small. Around the world, communities are experiencing more intense and frequent weather events. We're beginning to see more of hurricanes tearing through different cities. We're beginning to see flooding emanate, washing away some entire neighborhood, entire communities, and all of that. We're experiencing wildfires and burning forests that once provided shelter and sustenance. I mean, these are no longer fairy tales. It's staring in our faces, and they are reality.
To expand the width of this menace, those who understand it as a crisis point deplore what impact it could have on one important aspect, food security. Dr. Oluwoshile shares his thoughts.
Climate change might just sound like something happening somewhere far away. I mean, concern for the future, perhaps, but not something that directly impacts their immediate life. That's what I'm trying to say. However, beneath the surface, climate change, whether we like it or not, is slowly creeping into their world. The rains are no longer as predictable as they used to be, right? And the heat seems to grow more intense every year. We are all experiencing it. The farmers now in rural areas are already feeling this thing, and the shifting weather pattern threatening their crops and by extension their livelihood, and also by extension the food they bring to the market that we all buy, right? And in turn also skyrocket to every living human being who is dependent on food resources from the farmland in Nigeria. Coastal community faces increasing flood. We can talk about others in the north struggling with droughts that pushes them further to the south and beginning to experience either farmer clash and all of those type of things.
He added that it is more relatable to inhabitants of the urban area than those in rural areas. What level of awareness can be provided to help Nigerians understand the myths and challenges of climate change?
Education play a very crucial role in terms of awareness. School, media outlets, and community organizations can easily become a catalyst for change by embedding climate awareness into majority of their messaging, workshops, radio programs, social media campaigns, and all of that.
Climate education should be included in schools because it's easier for children to spread information, young people to talk about stuff, social media and all of that. So it should be included. Climate education, it could even be included as a separate subject on its own, climate education, because climate education is really big, is really robust. There are the technical terms and there are the everyday terms that we can relate to it. So it should be included.
According to Dr. Oluwoshile, climate change puts the nearest future at stake, and it will do the citizens a world of good if they know how to contribute their quota. Recall that the recently completed climate summit, COP29, brought together nearly 200 countries in Baku, Azerbaijan, and reached a breakthrough agreement that some of the wealthiest countries, including USA, Germany, UK, China, Japan, and the likes, will triple finance to developing countries from the previous goal of $100 billion annually to $300 billion annually by 2035.
To other matters on the home front, there are fresh plans by the Oyo State government to end the rate at which illegal arms and light weapons are being ferried into the state. Speaking on this recently, Special Advisor on Homeland Security to Oyo State Governor, retired Assistant Controller General of Immigration, Segun Adegoke, maintained that illegal migration in the state will also be curbed. Adegoke made the revelation when he led a team of security officers from the Department of State Security, the police, immigration, customs, and NSCDC on a sensitization visit to the state's border towns across Oyo State. In another matter, the main opposition in the state is not at home with the forceful takeover of the structures housing public reading and learning facilities in the area of Ibadan. The All Progressives Congress, APC, in a recent reaction, criticized the development and the conversion of the said structures to lock-up shops and shopping malls by the state government. In a statement signed by the Publicity Secretary of the APC, Oyo State, Olawale Shadari, the party described the development as ill-conceived and unacceptable. And the Oyo State government has high expectations from the newly upgraded modern Erua farm settlement. Recall that Governor Seyi Makinde upgraded the 3,250-hectare farm settlement to an agri-business industrial hub recently. The governor did so with a promise to also complete the Ido-Erua Road within the next year. Makinde and the Director General of Oyo State Agribusiness Development Agency, OISADA, Dr. Debo Akonde, were convinced beyond measure that the new hub will automatically put the zone on the international agricultural map.
To take on this project and to see it to completion. It will include a crop and livestock production center, 15 to 20 processing centers, a state-of-the-art agribusiness training center, a mechanization and equipment leasing center, an early generation seed production center, and the icing on the cake will be the Eco Research Center that will put Irua on the map of the world.
The farm settlement located in Ibarapa geopolitical zone of the state has been in bad condition in the last few years. In the meantime, business owners operating in Oyo State have been warned against defaulting on their tax payment. Executive Chairman of the State Board of Internal Revenue, Olufemi Awako, who gave the warning recently, stressed that the state will use legal action against those who evade taxes. According to him, the payment of taxes and levies was not optional, as stated in Section 24 of the Constitution. And just before we go, the Osun State government is prepared to put up a multi-billion naira airport. Secretary to the state government, Teslimi Balaye, who revealed this recently, informed that the new infrastructure will lead to the abandoning of the MKO Abiola Airport, Idu-Osun, that cost former Governor Rauf Aregbesola over 3.5 billion naira to build. The Minister of Works, David Umai, and Minister of Aviation, Festus Kenyamo, are expected to perform the foundation laying of the new airport in Ede on December 16 as part of activities to commemorate the second year anniversary of the Ademola Adeleke administration. That's the size of our package on this stretch of network Southwest today from 105.1 FM Ibadan. We say thank you for listening. I am Fortune Moshola. Let's join our studios in Ekiti. Adamimogo 107.7 FM in Ekiti for the rest of Southwest today.
Thank you, Fortune. Welcome to Iduikiti on Southwest today. My name is Kingsley Iniovosa. The retired Bishop of Ekiti Anglican Diocese and Archbishop of Ondo Province, Church of Nigeria, the Most Reverend Dr. Christopher Omotoday, while delivering a sermon at the Thanksgiving service and awards to wind up the week-long activities commemorating the 25th anniversary of the Diocese of Ekiti West, Anglican Communion held at the Cathedral Church of Christ, Ijeru, has re-echoed on the inclusion of history as a compulsory subject in the secondary school curriculum in Nigeria. The cleric opined that making history as a compulsory subject will enhance the preservation and transmission of the labor, values, and struggles of our heroes past as a learning curve and identity for the upcoming generation. Among today laments the majority of societal problems such as prostitution, alcoholism, excessive love of money, vote trading, and drug abuse, among others, as a challenge to the church, which must rise through the more effective evangelism as a solution. While commended the Bishop of the Diocese of Ekiti West, Right Reverend Dr. Cornelius Adagbada, for providing purposeful leadership in his episcopacy, he reminded Christians that the sovereignty of God does not excuse self-responsibility. The Ekiti State Police Command has arraigned one Musa Abi, 25-year-old, as the Chief Magistrate Court sitting in Ado-Ekiti over alleged theft of electric wire. According to the police prosecutor, Inspector Bamikole Olasukomi told the court that on November 12 at about 11:35 p.m. at Ifaki Magisterial District, the suspect stole the electric wire valued at 2 million naira, property of one Omotosho Francis, saying the offense is punishable under the section 302 into bracket 1 and into bracket 8 of the Criminal Law of Ekiti State 2021. Counsel to the defendant, Barrister Olufemi Alabi, urged the courts to admit his clients to bail, saying he would not jump bail. However, Magistrate Abayomi Adeosun granted bail of 200,000 naira with surety in sum and verifiable addresses and adjourned the case to December 12. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP has again asked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to act on the public interest to issue an order for the prosecution and investigation of public funds looted by some government agencies. A record group had earlier urged the president to direct the Attorney General of the Federation and the appropriate anti-corruption agencies to promptly probe allegations of 57 billion naira of public funds missing from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation in 2021. Elaborating further on the court today, SERAP's Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, who featured on Adamimogo FM's Current Affairs show, the follow-up, said there won't be any need for borrowings if the president recovers the stolen funds. According to him, the zeal of the president in borrowing for public goods should also be replicated in recovering looted funds. Oluwadare also maintained that the group may be compelled to go court if nothing is done after its 7-day ultimatum.
That is why we have put as part of our request for the president to instruct the necessary agencies, including the Attorney General of the Federation, to seek a refund of these funds. You would agree with me if Nigeria can recover even 50% of these funds. We should not need to borrow, and also speaks to the fact that is there really a necessity to borrow? Will the borrowing work for us if there are individuals who will make sure that these monies disappear to private pockets? So the zeal and intention of the president in borrowing and for what he has said for public good should also be demonstrated to recover these public funds that have ended up in private pockets. That's the least he can do in this instance.
Also featured on the show is a rights activist, Ebenezer Oni, who elucidates the implications of corrupt practices seen within government agencies. According to him, the most vulnerable in the nation are the ones who bear the brunt of government irregularities, as they lack essential needs and opportunities.
This is what Nigerians are experiencing presently. There is hardship on the land. Everybody, masses are suffering. The vulnerable ones are suffering, and it will keep putting our country to a high-profile debt country. We will keep wallowing in this. There won't be electrification, there won't be stable electricity, there won't be drinkable water, there won't be access to healthcare services, and all sorts of things. We will just be living like we are seeing in Stone Age.
Oni added that special reforms should be implemented within procurement office to avoid future occurrences. Operatives of the Ondo State Police Command have arrested a farmer identified as Adegoke in already headquarters of Odigbo local government area over the deadly beating of 2 suspected thieves. It was gathered that Adegoke apprehended 2 individuals who were allegedly on his farm to steal produce, and he reportedly beat them into a coma, and they were later confirmed dead at the hospital. The State Police Public Relations Officer Fumi Odunlami stated that Adegoke had been detained and transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department in Akure for further investigation. The police spokesperson added that the complainants alleged the suspected thieves were on Adegoke's farm to pick snails, not to steal farm produce. She also noted that it was Adegoke's wife who had alerted him to the presence of the individuals, prompting him to return and confront them. Stated that the command has commenced a thorough investigation into the incidents. That's the size of our package today on Southwest Today. I am Kingsley Iniovosa. Back to Lagos, where Sam is standing by.
real voices.
Have arrived Lagos, according to authorities in Nigeria.
Tune in to Adamimogo 107.7 FM for a fresh perspective on news. Adamimogo 107.7 FM, the voice of the light. Let the music speak to your soul.